Hello, everyone. I'm excited for today's conversation. My guest is Michael Fleishner, founder of Big Fin SEO, host of the Digital Freelancers Podcast, and author of SEO Made Simple. Michael has helped thousands grow their business through digital marketing. His career spans SEO, multiple ventures, national conferences, was featured on the Today Show and ABC News. Michael, you've been everywhere. Super, super excited to talk to you today. I know you love helping people connect the dots between strategy, content, and execution. And I think we're going to be able to dive into that a little bit today.
Brian, thanks so much for having me.
My pleasure. We'll get into Big Fin SEO, but I'm going to start broader. You've been helping businesses in multiple ways, right? And it seems like a theme that you really focus on is helping owners really take control of their success. Where did that mindset come from? And how does that shape what you do as an entrepreneur or as a marketer?
Good question. Our journey is shaped by our experiences. For me, I started in the corporate world running marketing departments for corporations. It was a great career. I enjoyed it, but I wanted something more. And I got the entrepreneurial bug and I started to think about ways that I could help companies. And back when I was coming up through corporate marketing, digital marketing was exploding. And a lot of people were trying to bridge that gap between traditional print advertising and digital advertising. So, I started to explore that. I started to get really good at it. And I started to help companies with that transition because it really was a transition. And honestly, for some companies, they're still transitioning to digital, which is surprising to me, right? 20 years later, but it is a path that we are all on as entrepreneurs, as business owners, as marketers, and helping navigate that path for me was kind of a double blessing because in one way I could help other companies be successful, but I could also help myself be successful, right? Whether that's, educating people through courses or books or speeches or whatever the case may be. While I was acquiring this knowledge, I also had this amazing opportunity to share that knowledge with other people on a broader stage. And because of that, I think there are a lot of corporate marketers out there, a lot of marketing people who just have these amazing gifts locked into a transactional relationship with customers. There's so much more they could be doing. Fortunately for me, as we know, Brian, right, through the agency, we've been able to have some additional runway to focus on some of those other projects in addition to the transactional nature of digital marketing.
Very cool. So take me back 20 years ago. You've got a corporate job. What led you to just say, all right, I'm going to take the leap and go out on my own? And was it scary? Was it exciting? How did you make that decision?
That's something I hear from a lot of people in corporate jobs. They're unhappy, unfulfilled. They're doing the same work day in, day out. They're a little bored. They're somewhat depressed. They're like, there's got to be something better. And that was me for many years. And the problem with that is really threefold. One is they're never going to realize their full potential if they don't leave. Two, they're going to continue to really be unhappy and unfulfilled. And three, they're going to stay or overstay in that job until they're asked to leave. I know that from working with literally over 1,000 people transitioning from kind of that corporate world to freelancing. So we both know that in order to make that transition, it's not just physical, it's a mental thing. Like, how do you overcome that fear that, hey, I'm not going to have a steady paycheck, build the self-confidence? And, what if I was to tell you that there is a very clear way to make that transition where you could get from, your corporate mindset to that of becoming your own boss? I've done it. I've seen it happen and I learned things I would have done differently, but now I can lay out that plan for people. It's not an all or nothing plan. That's the mindset shift that people need to go through because it is scary. It is overwhelming. It seems like an impossible challenge. But if people can break it down and say, I'm really good at podcasting or interviewing people, great. Then what would be the next step? Maybe figuring out how to launch a podcast or interviewing other business owners at a coffee shop. It's this path we want to put ourselves on to ultimately see where that goes. And I think if people can change their mindset from fear and lack to what is in my control? What is the outcome I'm looking for? And not make it seem like an impossibility, you will start to gain traction. And with traction builds confidence. I didn't just quit my job and start being an entrepreneur. I took a particular interest at the time in search engine optimization because I had a website that wasn't showing up on Google. And I said, let me learn more about that. And one thing led to another. And then people said, hey, if you could show me how you do that for my business, I'll pay you. I'm like, really? That's a thing? You start to minimize, at least in your own mind, what that risk is. You get excited, you start helping people and creating a win-win situation. We call that fair exchange or abundance exchange. That is a journey many people are on, and there is a path to getting there.
I couldn't agree with you more. My story is similar to yours, right? I was working full time. Wasn't in the marketing business actually. I was in hospitality. And this was something very foreign. And I
Mhm.
had my full-time gig, working 40, 50, 60 hours a week and then doing this on the side for 18 months. 18 months before
Yeah.
I took the leap and said this is going to be my full-time thing. And here we are 16 years later, and I'm very glad. I'm
Yeah.
sure the folks you're talking to are in that beginning stage and need a little bit of help. I know I did, a little bit of help to push them along the way and gain that confidence. I think doing that work is awesome.
Mhm. Everyone has their own risk tolerance. I've got a good friend. She was in a great business development role, making multiple six figures. And one day she woke up and said, I'm not happy. I'm quitting my job. She quit her job, had nothing, and then started the next thing. Fortunately for her, it worked out, but that wasn't me. I needed, I was raising a family, there were expenses. I couldn't just quit my job. And quite honestly, even if I could do it from a financial perspective, I didn't have the self-confidence or that feeling of self-worth that I could actually go and make it happen. So I think that's good news for a lot of people because it seems like when you're scrolling through Instagram, people are literally quitting their jobs and starting eight-figure e-commerce stores in a week. But maybe that happens in my world. Rarely do I see that. It is more of a transition and giving yourself permission to say, I'm going to give it a year, 18 months, or 2 years,
Yeah.
or I'm going to stay the course until I can take that next step.
It's easier for people when they realize it doesn't have to be all or nothing right from jump. You were building your business while still working, then I'm sure it went from, you already mentioned, oh, I could do this for other businesses. You were able to scale an entire agency around that. But you've also, while you've been doing that, built out some personal platforms too. And I'm just wondering, was that intentional from the beginning?
I didn't realize this about myself in the corporate world. I knew there was something more, but I didn't realize that I did have this entrepreneurial bent, if you will. And I think it was because I didn't have the headspace for it. When you're in that corporate job and you're working 40, 50, 60 hours a week, you really don't have the headspace to be creative, to explore new things. And I think when people free themselves from the matrix, that corporate structure, what I found, at least for me, is that it really did open a lot of doors that I hadn't expected. I knew I wanted to give back. I knew I wanted to help other people. I knew I wanted to explore publishing and some other things. Last year, I did a TEDx presentation. That's something I would have never considered, but because I've created this agency with an amazing team, amazing clients, it affords me the ability to create some space during the week to focus on other endeavors, whether it's the freelance training academy, books, presentations, or whatever. It doesn't matter. And this isn't to boast. I was a corporate marketing guy. I had the same skills as everyone else. But what I didn't have was time and space to pursue my passion and be creative. I think people will find whether they're doing it like we did it, Brian, doing the 40 hours and then creating space for whatever this passion is, nights, weekends, lunch hour, right? The second way to create space is to reduce your active hours in your business, doing less and getting paid for less, or finding ways others can help you with the work. It creates this mental space that really does allow you to get in touch with what does motivate you, what does drive you, what interests you. And I think that's really the game changer. And today, in addition to the agency, I'm involved with multiple businesses and I have passions I've been able to explore by creating that space.
Yeah, creating that space, it's a mature way to look at it. You did it for yourself and you're helping others do that for themselves. When you first started to approach that, was it like, I know I need to create this space? Or did it just organically happen? I think it's something that a lot of business owners do struggle with, right? Like we kind of just,
Mhm.
we let our businesses run us instead of us running our businesses. I'd love to
Yes.
hear how you created the guidelines and the boundaries.
Yeah, I got fortunate. I met a guy who's I will not name his name, but I will say that he's a billionaire. And I learned a lot from him as a mentor. And he taught me we can make money in three ways. You can make the money through what we call active hours, meaning you show up and you harvest the fish every day and you get paid for the number of hours that you're there doing the work. You can have other people helping you to make money. That's owning a business, running a business, and then your money can make money. There's no other way to make money unless you're doing something illegal like printing it. He told me my goal should be 25 or fewer active hours in the business. Now, why did he say that? At the time, I didn't really understand it. I didn't know what it meant. But as I've been playing this game longer and longer, his point was you have to be able to deliver a quality service or solution without you being the one to implement it all the time. You can do it some of the time, you can do a little bit every day, but you can't be the one doing it all day, every day because of what we've been talking about. How can you create space? I'm invested in whiskey. I knew nothing, but I liked it. So one thing led to another, and someone said, hey, did you know that you could buy whiskey barrels and blah, 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 blah. It's like this whole thing. So I spent 30 minutes here, an hour there, 2 days, going on a tour, blah, blah, blah. And I couldn't have done that if working 40, 50, 60 hours in the business. Now, some people say, well, Michael, I have a full-time job. How? It's not about the how, it's about the goal and the what, and ultimately why. Like, why are you doing it? And we all know, especially you in hospitality, Brian, it's not just the active hours, it's the mental energy when you're not on site. It's never ending. That 40, 50 hours is probably closer to 80, 90 because you're thinking about it, right? You're continually focused on the active hours. So that was the turning point for me when Dan said, hey, 25 or fewer active hours in the business without compromising quality you're delivering with your solutions. And that gave me a target to focus on and accomplish. For me, the biggest opportunity was personal growth. To get there, I had to systematize, invest in software, hire the right people. I had to take a little less in profit and put it back into the business. So all of those create opportunities for us as individuals to grow as business owners, as agency owners, because if all we're doing is selling and delivering, you're never going to get there.
Yeah, that is a fantastic piece of advice to have that hard target of 25 hours. Like you said, it's going to force you to systematize and make sure you're hiring the right people and getting them in the right seats and all of that. So yeah,
Absolutely.
I'm gonna go through my calendar and see where I can create more space in
Yeah.
that.
The interesting thing is it's hard to see over the wall. Oftentimes you can't see what's in front of you until you move up a bit, you get some elevation and see over the wall. One thing I didn't understand at the time was I prided myself on providing quality solutions. If they needed a digital ad campaign, I was going to set up Google Ads and Tag Manager and set up the campaigns, ads, do keyword research, launch it and monitor it and do all those things, right? And then I found somebody who was a lot better at it than I was, who said, we'll do a deal and you'll pay me when I bring on clients. We
Mhm.
worked out the financial piece, which I was so afraid of. And now I'm delivering an even better service to my clients
Mhm.
than and literally like I could study it for another 20 years. I will never be as good as this team member. My point is I couldn't imagine that. I had to do the work of saying, okay, to your point, like what systems need to be implemented, what things need to be changed. Let me sit down and look at how I'm spending my time with the podcast. Oh, I'm spending
Mhm.
2 hours editing every episode. How can I outsource that work? It's too expensive. Let me look. Then you find somebody as an intern or someone overseas who maybe that's all they do. And they're so good, it's going to take them an hour instead of two. And now that cost is a lot less. You can't see those things until you start down that path. I encourage people to think about that internal look, realize you're not going to have all the answers, but by taking those steps, they will reveal themselves over time.
Love that. Just get started, right? You mentioned having a why, right? And I know when I first started, my why was very strongly, I want to work for myself. I want my own business, right? I want to be able to have a flexible schedule, spend time with my family. That was a very strong why for me. Are you familiar with the work of, do you know Viktor Frankl? I don't know if that
Yes,
name rings a
absolutely.
bell. I'm blanking on the name of his book, but I remember a quote from it. Yes, exactly. And to the listeners, if you have not read that book, cannot recommend it enough. It's a fantastic book. He had a quote in there, he who has a why to live for can deal with any how. And I
Mm,
think that's really true. Not just deal with the how, but figure out the how, right? Don't
mm,
get bogged down in the nitty gritty details of how you're going to pull it off. Just know that you really want to pull it off and take those first few steps. I think that's an awesome message.
mhm.
So let me ask about the agency. You're doing a lot of digital marketing for your clients, and you also have the Freelance Academy. I imagine folks who come to that, some are marketers already, some are just starting to dip their toes in marketing, or they see marketing as the way they're going to start their own business. Their advice you give to marketers or agency owners looking to build their business or diversify revenue streams without burning out?
Yeah, let's unpack that. The Freelance Training Academy, I started some time ago, really looking to provide that support to freelancers, to agencies, to people who are really just at the beginning of that process. I like to say start, grow, and scale.
Love
I've
it.
moved away from the Freelance Training Academy, and now we do something called the Freelance Friday newsletter. And if people are interested, they can Google it. It's a free newsletter where I give every week tips and strategies on kind of this transition that we're talking about and tools and resources you can use to really use time compression, which is the most important thing you could ever invest in. Finding a mentor, listening to a podcast like yours, finding other people who have done it and replicating their success. So, the Freelance Friday newsletter was my way to be able to spread information to thousands with just an hour of my time every week. Looking for ways to leverage yourself in your business is critical. We focus on three things at Big Fin SEO: search engine optimization, our bread and butter, paid search, pay per click, advertising, Google ads, Facebook ads, and website development. And that's really our triangle. Why? Because if you want to show up online and you want to have a strong online reputation, generate leads, and grow your business, you need those three things. If you're a business owner and don't show up in search results, you're not spending on marketing, and you don't have a website that converts, I can tell you how your business is going to do, right? So there's a certain predictable nature to it. But as you start working for clients and you're proving yourself, right? You're delivering results, you're consistent, you show up every day, you're creating value for them. They're like, well, can you also do this or that, right? Can you handle our email newsletter, create content? So Big Fin, which really started out simply as an SEO agency, now is really a full service digital marketing agency. I think it's because of two things. One is we were able to deliver on kind of our core promise, but more important, it's the idea of being open to meeting the needs of your clients and not being afraid to say, no, we don't do it currently, but I'd love to source it for you. Let us find a full-time person, let us find a freelancer, let us find how we can deliver this service to you because you're a great client and we're going to manage the whole process for you. It's kind of the second option. And then the third option is to say, I've got a partner and I can refer you and I can service you in some other way. But that middle option was the one we always gravitated toward. It helps us grow. And once you offer it to one, you can offer it to everyone. Right. So it's
Yeah.
like this additional service. So I think, as we focus on the value agencies deliver, keep in mind that your client is spending money on X, and it's probably better served being spent with you if you are taking care of that client, right? We don't know the quality of other vendors. My whole point is, at least from my perspective, if you're delivering for a client and they have an additional need, you need to figure out how to deliver that well, or else things are going to get fragmented and they're not going to be clients for long.
Yeah, I agree. It's an interesting moment with a client when they come to you with something you don't normally do, and they're like, "Hey, can you help me with this?" And we kind of go through those same three options. And whenever we can do it for a client, especially if we see once we crack the code on this, we can offer it to other clients. But there's always that fear of, is this going to cut into my profitability? Am I going to spend too much time figuring this out? Any tips on how to really like kind of protect profitability as you are expanding into those new services?
Yeah, I think that you have to have a minimum threshold. For us, if a client comes to me, say it's a local client, I don't know, making it up, a pizzeria, and they say, we want to do work with you. I say, well, look, we're a minimum of $2,500 a month. If you can't afford that, we're not the agency for you. It took me a while to get there. You have to be in the business delivering a service, understand the metrics, the numbers, overhead, cost of labor. There are all these expenses that go into it. And in the beginning, when I started the agency, I was like, I'll take any business at any price and giving things away. Especially if you've quit your job and now you got to make a living, you're willing to take anything, but it comes at an expense. I help my clients succeed, but I don't fund their business. So if my costs are a minimum of $1,500, that $2,500 price tag is there for a reason. I'm not willing to take the $1,500 when it actually costs me more than $1,500. It's that
Right.
basic financial metric. When thinking about new services, it needs to be done the same way. If you're going to deliver email marketing and paying for it, let's say you're paying for Constant Contact or MailChimp, you're paying for an account manager, you're paying your overhead, whatever that cost is, you cannot deliver that service for less than cost plus profit. For us, we have a 20% minimum. We're not going to do anything unless we're
Mhm.
making at least 20% on it because that business is shouldn't be delivering any service or product without making at least 20%. Unless you're a grocery store, they work on small margins.
Right.
Margin has to be part of it for you to continue to invest not only in your people, but in the business. And
Mhm.
having that threshold, whatever that metric is for any of your listeners, you have to hold the line. As tempted as you would be, right? We just had this
Mhm.
with a client who asked us to do a one day strategy session. And we do full marketing audits and strategy and all this stuff. And we charge 6,000 for a half day and 10,000 for a full day. They started negotiating on the price or wanted to negotiate. And I said, look, we could spend less time interviewing your people. We could spend less time on the creative assets that we're going to create for you. We could forget about the brand style, right? Like as we start to go through it and they understand the really it's kind of fab selling, right? It's this idea of features, advantages, and benefits. And we're not going to deliver a service unless there's a benefit, make you money or save you money. That has to work into all of your pricing, and you have to be confident in your ability to deliver a meaningful solution. It's like sales, some will, some won't. Ultimately, it does need to create the value you're charging for. I'm not saying charge exorbitant amounts and
No,
don't
of course, yeah.
deliver. Instead, understand your cost structure, the value you can bring, and what that will do for your client. If you're going to help them generate $100,000, charging 10 grand for a day, creating assets that last for years seems like a good investment. We've done workshops. I've spent 10 grand in a day and I have spent 20 or 30 because of the value they create. So I think it is really knowing your numbers.
Yeah, 100%. It's interesting because I think when we're new to this, we might know the marketing end, we might know the tactical end, but the running the business part is you just got to figure that out, right? And really being able to job cost, know what a job is costing you and how to put profit on and how to have those conversations. Those are the hardest part about running a business. It really is a trial by fire. You have to learn it. Unless you've got an MBA, it's something every one of us has had to deal with. And you have to come out the other side if you're going to succeed. It's just something you have to do.
Yeah, I agree. And you know what? Oftentimes it comes down to who your target audience is. I use
Mhm.
that pizzeria example. There are plenty of clients, especially in the software business, like that's who they go after. And they're charging $59 a month and they're making 50 of that 59 in profit. Good for them. That's great. But you can't go to a pizzeria and say, we'll put together a marketing plan for you and it's going to cost 10 grand. It's the wrong audience. Part of it is knowing who you can help, especially if you're transitioning out of corporate. You have to give yourself time to build. I know when I started the Digital Freelancers Podcast, we started with nothing, right? And we said we're going to give ourselves a year. And it took a year to build an audience, to build a following, to get good
Mhm.
enough at it that we could say to a sponsor, hey, if you want to sponsor the show, here's what it costs. So you have to give yourself some runway and be
Yeah.
open to see how it unfolds.
Yep. Absolutely. So you've been sharing awesome advice for everybody here. I know the listeners are going to get a lot out of this episode. Let me ask you, as we're starting to wrap up here, what do you see coming, just around the corner? What are you monitoring right now? Because you know it's going to affect whether it be Big Fin SEO or the stuff that you're doing with freelancers, the books you plan on writing. What are you looking at over the horizon that we should all be paying attention to?
Yeah, I don't think it'll be any surprise, Brian, but AI is
Hmm.
not only has it been integrated into a lot of the tools that we use as an agency, I think a lot of companies are going to need guidance on how to
Hmm.
integrate AI into what they do, not just from a marketing perspective, right, but from an operational perspective and all these other things. Because I think we, as marketers in particular, are really on the forefront of how AI is impacting everything from search to how we generate content, how we market ourselves, how we advertise. And I think just like the internet was kind of a new thing that took years for some companies to get on board with, I think AI is similar. I see similar evolutions happening around AI tools and how it gets integrated into business. Whether in marketing, podcasting, running a small business, or being entrepreneurial, we really do need to think about how can we support our clients with their AI or AI implementations, even if it's just recommending a tool we're experimenting with that could be beneficial to them and their business. I think the AI conversation is going to be around for a while. The nature of that conversation will evolve and change. We have to embrace it because not only is it here, it's been here. We're just really starting to see it everywhere. So I think that's really the focus. And anytime that we can create a better result, either faster or cheaper, it's worth pursuing.
100%. Yeah, you're right. AI definitely has popped up in a lot of these conversations, and it's been the big thing for probably about 2 years now, ever since ChatGPT landed on the
Yeah.
scene. But it's not going away. Recently, I saw an old clip of the Today Show where they were talking about email addresses, right? I didn't know what the at sign was, making fun of the internet and
Yeah.
email, like who's ever gonna use this? I remember I got my first email address in college, and I'm like, why would I ever use this? And now I am in
Right.
my email all day, every day. And I feel like AI is about to let people know, like, look, we're not going anywhere, and you're going to there are still people who just don't want to grapple with it. I'm seeing they're just going to have to. Yeah,
And
100%.
it's integrated into everything we do now, whether it's Siri on your
Right.
phone or Grammarly on the computer. That's AI driven. It's all very much there and it's accelerating. Even people who are on the flip phone, right? Who don't want to embrace the smartphone, like it's already too
Right.
late because that device
Right.
has something integrated using artificial intelligence. The faster we embrace that and realize it, the more we'll enjoy the process and create some value.
Well, Michael, I appreciate all the insights you've delivered today. Thank you for your time. Before you go, can you tell the audience where they can find you online?
Yeah, absolutely. If people want to get in touch, use LinkedIn and reach out to me directly. Also, we're at bigfinseo.com. So if you have any questions about your digital marketing, I would love to see you there. And as a marketing guy, if you can spell my name, just Google me. Thanks so much.
I'll put all of that in the show notes, so nobody has to worry about spelling. Links for everybody in the
Excellent.
show notes. All right. Well, Michael, thank you so much, and you have a great day, and hopefully we'll talk again soon.